Did you know that Skyrim's main quest was once a whole lot less lame? Or at the very least, its lamest quest was meant to be a whole lot less so? You see, main quests in Elder Scrolls games are all abbreviated as MQ followed by a number. The very first main quest, Unbound, where you escape from Helgen, is known as MQ-101. Its follow-up, Before the Storm, where you travel to Jarl Balgruuf with news from the dragon attack, is called MQ-102. You get it. But the next quest, MQ-103, is Bleak Falls Barrow. And it's pretty lackluster. But not only that, it just feels kinda wrong, you know? Because Bleak Falls Barrow is basically designed with the whole Golden Claw quest in mind, which is a miscellaneous or MS quest. If you take all those related elements away, you're basically left with a bog standard dungeon where you fetch a specific stone. Of course, it's at this point where I tell you that, oh, no wonder the quest is lame, it's like a total afterthought. And, well, duh. But you wanna know the strange thing? The original MQ-103 is still in the game. Basically exactly as it was always intended to play out. Which quest would that be? Well, the Jagged Crown actually. Yes, the Civil War affiliated quest in the final game. It also has two versions, an Imperial variant and a Stormcloak variant, CW02A and CW02B, but a lot of markers and internal names still refer to the finalized version as MQ103A and B instead. So we can assume that this change took place very late in development. I mean, if you want an example of just how intertwined the early term is with the final quest, you have a counter that ticks down for killed enemies, right? It's still known as MQ103 Defender Death Count. But hold on just a second, this is all very cool and all, but what does this imply? It basically confirms that at this point, by the third quest in the main questline, you would have had to have picked a side in the Civil War, and the quest has different variations for both factions, even as a main quest thing. So the joining up quest would have had to have been a prerequisite for getting to the third main quest. So the main quest progression was locked behind Civil War progression. That's really neat, but I can also understand why they would want that removed, as it doesn't really work with Bethesda's design philosophy of, hey, just do whatever, nothing really matters. Oh, and there is one interesting change that was made to the finalized Bleak Falls Barrow version of this quest at some point. You know, the Dragonstone tablet, the whole objective of the quest? That was originally a book. What book? We don't know, but we know it made it quite far into development, as there is dialogue meant for Uragro Shub, the librarian of the College of Winterhold, to talk about it.
What? You have it? No. No, as tempting as it is, it won't do to have both sides angry at us. The college has had enough trouble staying out of the war. No need to make it worse. You take that book back to General Tullius, or Ulfric, and let them have their little triumph. It will be delivered back here to me soon enough.
Which is a cute little detail, though he wouldn't actually do anything with it, refusing to break your questline. Also, sadly, the player dialogue for this topic, which likely would have held its name, is lost to time. At least, that's what I would have said if I didn't have the dialogue views files, which reveals that the topic simply read, I have the book you wanted. There is no other dialogue referring to this book explicitly, but there are leftovers here and there, such as the internal names for Farengar's explanation dialogue. But then we get to MQ-104, which is Dragon Rising in the final game. You get sent out to Western Watchtower alongside Irilet and some generic guards to investigate the dragon attack. This is where you kill your first dragon and absorb its soul, getting revealed as the Dovahkiin or Dragonborn. When you look at it, this quest is very Whiterun centric, and like Whiterun, it does its best to stay out of the Civil War. But we already know by this point, you were originally already a member of either faction during this quest. So how would it have differed? Well, once again, just like the Jagged Crown, you were meant to have two variations of this quest, based on your faction of choice. Rather than Jarl Balgruuf sending you with Irilet to investigate the dragon attack on a random watchtower, it was meant to be either faction leader sending you with a specific commander to investigate an attack on a fort. Speaking of which, have you ever heard of Captain Metilius? He gets re-added to the game with the cutting room floor mod, but he doesn't ever do anything. He has no unique dialogue, but he does have quite a few unique AI packages. The thing is, these are named after the main quests. But with how those are arranged in the final game, you wouldn't think that he'd play a role in them. But actually, These packages follow the naming structure of the old quests. Better yet, his package referring to MQ-103 confirming that quest's early placement even more. While Metilius doesn't have a placed ref in the game, I'm pretty certain he was only meant to appear at the end of the Jagged Crown, based on his package. You would then go and talk to General Tullius. Tullius would speak of a rumored dragon attack that took place at Fort Ragstad. Captain Metilius would lead the expedition to the fort, and you were meant to accompany him and a regiment of troops. Both the captain and the soldiers would have had some flavor dialogue while on the road, and once at the fort you'd realize it was indeed attacked, and you would have to kill the dragon. You kill it, absorb its soul, and the men would call you Dovahkiin. You then report back to General Tullius, and Legate Ricke would also want a word with you. As you can see, this is quite similar to how the quest appears in the final game, only there you're not aligned with a particular faction, and instead of possibly the blandest location in the game, you're sent to an established military fort. Another interesting difference is the fact that Metilius would give you the option of whether you wanted to go with him or scout ahead. Though, on the other side of the spectrum, there's even more stuff that didn't change. A lot of the player dialogue options are the same as they appear in the final game, and so are some of the generic soldier lines. Even dialogue used by Irilith was actually just ripped straight from Metilius. But that's just the Imperial variant. How would the Stormcloak one differ? Well, we don't actually know that much about it, as while the Imperial variant has basically all of its dialogue intact, the same can't be said for this one. Instead, we have to rely on leftover markers and other scraps to piece it together. In this case though, Ulfric would have sent you to investigate rumors of a dragon attack at Fort Amal, and he would send you alongside an NPC known as Sifnar. Besides the fact that this character was a Stormcloak field commander type and the equivalent of Captain Metilius, we don't really know anything about him, as unlike the former, Sifnar did not remain in the game's files. The dialogue views files hold two player-only topic lines that still refer to Sifnar. MQ00 Dragonborn Sifnar B1 and MQ00 Dragonborn Sifnar B2, which read "I don't know what happened to me" and "I think you may be right," respectively. These are the same lines given to you when the unnamed Whiterun guard approaches and names you Dragonborn after you kill Mirmulnir in the final version of the quest. You might be thinking, isn't there someone named Sifnar living in the Palace of the Kings in the final game? And yes, that's true. That would be Sifnar Ironcattle, but he's just an old servant. Based on his form ID, we know that he wasn't created alongside Metilius and such, and I more so think that he was just named Sifnar as a little nod to the removed character, similar to how Galmar was originally named Gormlet. There is another thing that sets Sifnar apart though, and that's the fact that he's also mentioned in a quest script for MQ-105, which Metilius isn't. MQ-105 is the Way of the Voice. The script implies that getting your objective from Sifnar at one point set stage 5 of the quest, something which was completely altered in the final version. The script mention might even be a developer error, but we cannot know that for sure in its current state. And there is one more thing I want to mention about Sifnar, and that's the fact that one other line of his survived into the final game in a very peculiar way. You see, Captain Metilius has this line after killing the dragon: "We'd better go make sure the bastard is really dead. Collect us a trophy or something to bring back to the general." Sifnar's equivalent to this line would have been: "We'd better go make sure that bastard is really dead. Collect us a trophy or something to bring back to Ulfric." How do I know that? Well, because that line's still in the game actually. Irilith says it.
"We'd better go make sure that bastard is really dead. Collect us a trophy or something to bring back to Ulfric."
Someone took Sifnar's lines, made Irilith's voice actor record them, had no clue that the dialogue being recorded was from an outdated script, and bam! That's how you get that oddity. Great proofreading, guys, stellar work. And while I'm sure there are many more strange tweaks that were made to the main quest, these ones related to the Civil War are by far my favorite. Would you have liked a more intertwined main quest than Civil War? Or do you prefer the way it was done in the final game, making you fight for an independent party? I would love to hear it in the comments below. And I've been an OG, and I hope you have a nice week ahead of you.